Hello and welcome to another episode of Punk Rock Politics. Let's check out this video and then we'll discuss. This is from the Rational National. He's got a Patreon page and a YouTube channel and a bunch of stuff, and he's great. And I'm a subscriber and I'm a patron, and you should become a patron of Punk Rock Politics and the Rational National, one of the best channels out there. Help inspire me. Here we go.
If you're
sorry about the ad. Sorry.
On expensive laundry detergent,
blah 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 blah.
stop what you're doing right
sorry.
now and get rid of.
Need patrons.
In 2008, he said that he would not cut Social Security.
In case there was any question about the corporate media's impact on people during this primary race, I got an exit poll for you. So this is from Tuesday, where 3 primary states voted. This is a CBS News exit poll showing 59% of Florida likely voters said they trusted Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders to handle Social Security. Now, I'm going to show you why this is ridiculous in a second, in case you don't know the reason. But this is what corporate media does. Now, look, I'm not saying all of their reporting is bad. No. Like, right now, when it comes to the ongoing crisis, it is very important to have places like CBS News or CNN or MSNBC out there telling you what's going on. Or even when it comes to, in many cases, when it comes to reporting on the Trump administration. They are objective in their reporting and are critical, and that's good. But when it comes to this primary race, whenever it comes to the potential of someone on the left attaining power, they are never objective. They are always pushing down the best interests of the people over their corporate interests, the interests of the wealthy. So if the media actually did their job during this Democratic primary process, this poll would be reversed, at the very least. Because looking at both of their records, it is clear who is strong on Social Security and who isn't. So first, let me show you, if you haven't seen this already, I'm going to show you, as you see, this is a recent video of mine. But here's a series of clips where Joe Biden is talking about cutting Social Security.
When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time. I introduced the balanced budget amendment in 1984. It got nowhere. I'm one of those Democrats who voted for the constitutional amendment to balance the budget. I have introduced on 4 occasions entire plans to balance the budget, knowing I'm not president and I'm not the leader, but for illustrative purposes. I tried with Senator Grassley back in the 80s to freeze all government spending, including Social Security, including everything. Ladies and gentlemen, the American people know we have to fix Social Security. They know we can't grow our way to a solution. They know we're going to have to make some tough decisions. They're ready to make these decisions. They're ready to step up. We have to be ready to straightforwardly tell them what we're about to do.
Senator, we have a deficit. We have Social Security and Medicare looming. The number of people on Social Security and Medicare is now 40 million people. It's going to be 80 million in 15 years. Would you consider looking at those programs, age of eligibility,
Absolutely.
cost of living, put it all on the table?
The answer is absolutely, you have to. I mean, it's one of the things that my, the political advisors say to me is, whoa, don't touch that third. Look, the American people aren't stupid. It's a real simple proposition. We have to do, you and I were talking about Bob Dole earlier. I was one of 5 people, I was the junior guy, in the meeting with Bob Dole, George Mitchell, when we put Social Security in the right path for 60 years. I'll never forget what Bob Dole said. After we reached an agreement about gradually raising the retirement age, etc., he said, look, here's the deal. We all put our foot in the boat one at a time. And he kidded me. He stepped like he was stepping into a boat. And we all make the following deal. If any one of the challengers running against incumbent Democrat or Republicans attacks us on this point, we'll all stay together. That's the kind of leadership that is needed. Social Security is not the hard one to solve. Medicare, that is the gorilla in the room. And you've got to put all of it on the table.
Everything.
Everything. You've got to.
So that's Joe Biden. Now, while this is Joe Biden's record, Here's what Bernie Sanders was doing during the Obama administration.
In 2008, candidate Obama vowed he would not cut Social Security.
Now's the time to protect Social Security for future generations.
Oh, but fast forward to 2013, bloodied over failed budget negotiations with Republicans, the president bit the bullet, proposing cost of living adjustments to Social Security and other federal benefits worth $230 billion. If you want to know exactly what that means, let's say you got $12,972 in Social Security last year. That is the average benefit. If the new system were already in place, you would get only $12,136 this year. That's $633 less. Even some lawmakers who support the president, they're furious.
In 2008, he said that he would not cut Social Security. We want the president to remember what he said and not go back on his word.
So it's clear. It's clear. And this is just one example of Bernie Sanders fighting for Social Security. He has a 100% record fighting for Social Security. His entire career, I mean, if you know anything about Bernie Sanders, he has always fought for the poor and the middle class, the elderly, veterans. His entire career is about fighting for people. Yet Joe Biden, again and again, fought to freeze it. Like, this shows you, clearly, in one exit poll, this shows you the failure of the media. And this is, again, I want to be clear here. This is the failure of the media when it comes to reporting on the Democratic Party and who is on the right side here, the right side of history when it comes to these issues. This doesn't apply to everything else, but it does apply to the Democratic Party, and it shows you the kind of mountain that Bernie Sanders had to climb during this primary process to get around that kind of misinformation, that kind of propaganda, and they had 4 years of build-up to do it. Now, Bernie Sanders in 2016, I think, had a better opportunity in some sense to actually be the nominee in 2016 because the media had not yet created a narrative around Bernie Sanders. So for many people, he was new on the scene, and they hadn't had an idea about who this guy was yet. So he was able to define himself back in 2016. But this year, we're following 4 years of propaganda by the media against Bernie Sanders. So the propaganda worked. And you get results like this, people having no idea who the hell actually fought for them and who didn't.
All right. Okay, I had to take some notes there, people. We're going to discuss what Dave Duell... Oh, sorry about that.
Voting?
Hold on one sec.
Do you want a hassle-free voting
Apologize.
experience?
Stay with me, bear
Check
with
out-
me. Sorry about that. We're going to flip some things around, turn on some lighting here, and get you guys ready. I apologize. All right, so again, another episode of Punk Rock Politics. We're going to do some analysis here. Excuse me one second. There we go. Oh, it's slipping. Come on, stay. All right, it's going to have to flip over. Okay, so that's David Duell of The Rational National. And what David Duell is exposing there is what the exit polls are showing. Excuse me, stupid commercials on YouTube, you know. If you don't pay for it, I need some patrons so I don't have to, so I can have more technical issues solved and give you guys even more reporting, more investigative journalism, more honest, independent media and news. Join Punk Rock Politics. Go to patreon.com/Punk Rock Politics. Become a patron today. You can get in for as little as $1, but let me dive in right into this. You get all kinds of perks, early access, extra videos. This is really important, so, okay, so let's go. We got David Duell is talking about how CBS, MSNBC, CNN are good organizations when it comes to letting us know what's going on with the coronavirus, and their coverage has been pretty good, right? And then, sorry, I'm taking notes as I talk for later, for the future. I'm going to do more videos. We're going to cover Donald Trump's speech earlier today. I believe it started at 11:30 a.m. We're going to do a video tonight. I'm going to release it tomorrow. We're going to cover the Poor People's Campaign, who had an event at 6:30 tonight. I'm going to make a video about that. Both videos are going to have analysis. Check them out. Stay tuned. Become a subscriber on YouTube. Click all or double click so you get the little parenthesis things around the bell, and you make sure you actually get notifications from me when I release new videos. Thanks for all your support. So anyway, okay, so listen. it said that they're doing good and they hold Trump to account. They're objective when it comes to Trump, but not when it comes to the DNC. They're pushing propaganda. All right, objective with Trump, not DNC. So, listen, Joe Biden has been pushing for the balanced budget amendment since 1984. That is a problem. All right, you have to understand basic economics says that if we spend more money, that's how we create a more equitable and a larger booming society with all the services and industries we need, from the arts to people building, fixing our failing infrastructure, which apparently, Donald Trump can't pass, and the Democrats have been terrible at this as well, giving all kinds of dirty, corrupt concessions to a bunch of both corporate Democrats and most of the Republicans in the federal government. And we don't commit our infrastructure to green technology and make it more efficient. Come on, think about the train, all the money New Jersey spends on New Jersey Transit and how awful the system is. It needs massive infusement of cash. It needs people to go. There's been articles constantly about NJ Transit, New Jersey Transit, being insufficient, not having enough conductors, not having enough staff, and this could be a problem for years. So we need to invest in that, but we need to put in conditions that they utilize the energy from running on the tracks, put some little windmills, and have solar panels on top of the train, so eventually it's just maintenance and we don't have to pay for fuel anymore. And we could use that money to infuse it back into the economy for education, infrastructure, to make the rides cheaper or free, because it is public transit and we already pay taxes and it's a horrible system and it should be free for everybody. Okay, next. With some precautions taken, health precautions, make sure hand sanitizers are around, and I mean from now and into the future forever. Make sure that their bathrooms are usually terrible. They need to make sure they have toilet paper, they need better toilets that actually flush better. They need soap and hand sanitizer in case you want to do either or, and be able to wash your hands with regular sinks, not these ridiculous pumps that work for 2 seconds and turn off. It needs to be more sanitary. This coronavirus is showing us that. But Joe Biden is not being covered fair by the media. All right, so he has gone on the record numerous times on the floor of the Senate and elsewhere, saying in speeches that he wants to freeze all government spending, and that means Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, every single solitary social safety net we have, food stamps. It means everything. Government funding for people that need mental health. For people that are disabled, and the list goes on and on. So he said every single social safety, every single solitary thing, and I fought all these times and all these years, and I tried to do it with Chuck Grassley and all these other people. All right. So the dead argument, and with these social safety nets, the way we built the biggest middle class in world history, all written human history, is that we made shit here. We had factories. We overtook factories in World War II, the government did, and produced a lot of goods we need to produce tanks and other materials for the soldiers and for people at home. We put women to work. We gave them better wages. We put money in everybody's hands, all different races, all different groups, all different people, all different neighborhoods, all different areas. And then so you had the New Deal by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had like 3 1/4 or 3.5 terms before he died, the only president to go over 2 terms, and then we changed that and made an amendment and said you could only have 2 terms. But he was the best president we had with his policies, so we were facing the financial crisis and the aftermath of that, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR, put in a bunch of policies, and his wife really pushed him hard on this. Eleanor Roosevelt, one of the I believe the first delegate at the United Nations, helped create it and push for it and fight for it. She was a very progressive activist. What we need to do is institute another New Deal, but it's going to be green. We're going to invest in housing like they did during World War II. And don't forget that World War II, this created the largest big middle class to ever exist in world history. So it's important that we do the same things, especially under a crisis, when this exposes the failures of capitalism and globalized economy. We need to make goods here, so if there's any danger, we can't have people coming in and out, or we need to quarantine, we can put people to work safely and not spread disease, and make sure all of our citizens are safe and that nobody gets sick, because we need a Medicare for all system. These are all things that were put in place during World War II. So then when FDR died and Harry Truman became president, he did the New Deal, an extension of a very progressive, aggressive economic input and money for everybody in our economy, and that boosted the economy even more. And then you have President Ike Eisenhower. That we like Ike. He was both parties asked for him to run, to be the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee. Back in 1950, he won, and he was in there for 2 terms till 1958. He had a 91% tax rate on corporations and the rich, and they kept crying about it, but they still produced and maintained the large wealth, very obscene wealth of families like J.P. Morgan family, the Morgan family, like the Carnegies, Rockefellers, etc. So it's a lie that they always tell you that, oh, companies are going to leave. No, America, people want their companies here. They build their companies here. They use our infrastructure. They use our government and military to their advantage. They take bailouts from us, and all the money goes to the top. So this time around, they better stop. But Joe Biden is going to give a bunch of bailout money to the top 1%, just like Barack Obama and Joe Biden's administration did for 2 years. They didn't put anybody in jail on Wall Street. They broke all their promises. And we're going to get to Obama in a minute. So there's this BS debt argument that we need to, balance the budget and all that. And economically, like Japan spends 3 times more, per capita than we do printing money, and they have a far more equal society. And there's a much more arts and a better infrastructure and healthcare and all that stuff. And everybody does better. So we need to do this, and we need to do it now. And the environment is only going to make the coronavirus worse with all of the melting permafrost and more diseases coming back from as much as hundreds of millions of years ago, maybe even 500 million or more, as long as the planet's been around. So we need to combat climate change as part of our progressive policies. Our policies are based on historical precedent and them working and them being the most efficient systems. Like there's 22 studies that say Medicare for all, saves money and saves lives. The most recent Yale study says it would save $450 billion for the U.S. taxpayer and save 68,000 lives a year, more than Bernie Sanders keeps saying at 30,000. So, all right, listen. Let's see. So we had a moderate Republican in 1950 who had a 91% tax rate on the poor and wealthy. I mean, on corporations and wealthy, not on the poor. And tax breaks are free. No taxes and services, massive services for African American communities, Latin community, everybody. Right. So, as far as I'm aware, there's a lot of massive infusion into the economy. The Black Americans were doing better then than they are now. So that says something, even after before the civil rights movement and all that stuff. So let's see. So Bernie Sanders could have been Eisenhower, President Eisenhower. Bernie Sanders isn't even asking for like half of that tax rate right now, and the tax rate for corporations and the wealthy are very low, and some of them huge corporations like Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world, if not the richest man in the world, has like hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth, and their workers have to go and get money from the government. Instead of requiring these corporations to pay a fair share of their profits and having workers on the board of directors and being involved in decisions with the company and instilling more democracy into the workplace. And this is what Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are suggesting. If we have a bailout, we need to put in protections. So the companies we need to give bailouts to workers, and every single American citizen should have $2,000. And it's very easy. And I think it's true that every single person living in America, even if they're not a citizen, should have $2,000 unless we determine they're genuinely and in a fair, independent way that they're actual potential rapists, murderers. But other than that, and if we can put those people back in their countries. But the rest of the people help build their economy. They make food. They do landscaping. They have businesses. It is a time for a different debate. This is a crisis, and if those people get sick, we all get sick. Everybody needs Medicare for all. Bottom line, all testing and all treatment for COVID-19 or coronavirus needs to be paid for. Now let's get a little bit more into Biden. So Biden's going to lose to Trump. All right, Trump can lie exclusively, and his followers predict him. But Bernie Sanders has 66% of the youth vote in these primaries, and since Joe Biden went on the record saying he has, I have no empathy for the younger generation. They say it's harder. Give me a break. And now he's asking for their support. Biden's the one that has no path to victory to beat Trump. Bernie Sanders is winning against Trump in like 40. I think it's like literally 44 or 45 of the states for the last 5 years in a row. Look at the polling, look up the data. Maybe use something like Orfox if Google Chrome takes too much paid advertising and sends you a bunch of propaganda from Vox and New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, etc., BBC. They're using intentionally misguided information from major news networks and crappy polls that are not reflective of the true electorate. And they're doing a disservice to people, and especially elderly voters. And Bernie Sanders has made some gains. He made huge gains in elderly voters and won every single other demographic in the state to go on and get 55.1 or even 56% of the vote, beating every other candidate. And we're supposed to believe that all these exit polls are way off and they hurt Bernie Sanders. He goes down, and when he was statistically ready to beat Trump, worst case scenario, 7 or 8 states, Bernie Sanders was supposed to win on Super Tuesday, and they say Biden won 9 out of the 14, plus it's just absurd. It's unbelievable. The data doesn't support it, and now people like 538 are putting down ridiculous polls, and nobody's doing. He was the founder who used to be good with polls, but now he's been bashing Bernie Sanders, and the media is trying to manufacture consent, and it's a real shame. And that's why you need to support channels like this. Share, comment, like. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and most importantly, please go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics and just become a member for $1. See what you get. You want to be a revolutionary? You have a chance to be on the show. You could have a chance to have an internship, and I'll definitely write you up a great review. I'm educated. I've been in politics and activism for a long time, and I've been in media as well for a few years, and I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm doing, and I will definitely support you if you're a decent person and a good worker, and we work well together and build this channel. Maybe if I make enough money, you could be on the channel. You could work with me on a constant basis. So anyway, it's a job. I'm not promising anything, but if it works out and I start getting some patrons on patreon.com and doing more live streams and having more help with the channel to put out more videos, we can make this thing huge, and we can make it like the Rational National, Secular Talk, the Hill Rising. And while I said the Hill Rising, I just want to sidetrack real quick and say I agree with Crystal Ball on a lot of things, but Crystal Ball did a video recently. I don't agree with her, but most of her stuff is true. She said that she believes Bernie Sanders would have more power if he maybe dropped out of the race instead of racking up delegates, and some guest agreed with her. That's an absurd proposition. That's an anti-progressive proposition, and it's not true historically. In 2016, Bernie Sanders stayed in a bitter race with Hillary Clinton and pushed people to the left and got concessions for the first round for all Democrats. If you get over 50%, it's not what he wanted, but it's what the concession they gave him. If you get over 50% of the delegates the first round, you become the nominee automatically, and superdelegates don't vote, who can vote for whoever they want, and they're entrenched party elites for the most part. So, and they're all in the bag for Biden. Not to mention Tulsi Gabbard showing that she's a fake progressive and just a careerist and an opportunist like the rest of them, like Elizabeth Warren. A lot of them. I'm really disappointed in the progressive movement. And, Tulsi Gabbard dropped out of the DNC in 2016 in disgust at what they did to Bernie Sanders and supported Bernie Sanders' campaign. And now she's supporting Joe Biden, a obviously mentally declining, if not potentially has dementia or some other cognitive problems, that have multiple brain hemorrhages and blood clots, even back in 2019 when he started this campaign. We have serious issues. The guy would get crushed by Trump. He's not battle-tested. He's never ran a presidential campaign before. He was just a vice president to get old, conservative, racist, sexist to vote for Barack Obama, because that's what Joe Biden is. And he lies not as much as Trump, but plenty. And his policies have been neoliberal, right-wing, very dangerous policies that have hurt trade. They have hurt union protections. He's let down unions that have supported him. He's recently been screaming. He called somebody a horse's ass when he asked a serious question. He challenges people that ask hard questions that are even supporters at events. And calls them fat and challenges them to races. He stumbles on his words, and his policy, even before his mental decline, was atrocious, and so was Obama's. I know he's popular, but Bernie Sanders is playing that because he's very popular, so he's afraid to condemn him. But Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders was right. Should have been primaried in 2012. For the election, and I wish Bernie Sanders would have done it, because Barack Obama was breaking all of his promises. He extended the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy, and only tiny numbers for bear with me. He extended the Bush tax cuts and gave barely any money for the middle and lower class, extended a bunch of money for the rich, took more money than Mitt Romney in the campaign in 2012. And if you know anything about Mitt Romney, he was a pretty corrupt guy working at a venture capitalist, supposed fixed company thing that was, taking a bunch of money, profiting, and taking it for a few, and then, businesses were failing. But anyway, we're going to get back to, Obama broke his promise. So he promised, as Bernie Sanders said in 2008, not to cut Social Security. So here comes 2012, and they use the smoke and mirrors thing, and the parties, the elites in both parties are working together to create a big scene for you that you buy into. And the Republicans were, not passing any of his legislation that he so wanted so bad, but he had to give concessions to them instead of fighting when he was one of the most popular orators and could sway a whole crowd if he chose to fight for something. And if the DNC establishment really wanted stuff like a single-payer health care option for Affordable Care Act, they didn't want that at all. Look into it. They actually intentionally tanked the bill so they wouldn't make it an option. All right? Look into that. There's a lot of information on that. So, in 2012, if you had, I believe, Social Security, you had $12,972, right? Well, Obama, who promised not to cut Social Security, said, in 2013, if his plan went into place, you'd have $12,336, which is $633 less. Sanders called out Obama on this, saying he said this, and, he needs to keep his word, and Obama needs to he promised us something to get him elected, and he's not holding his word. And then Bernie has like 100% record, as David Duell was saying, of fighting for the poor, the middle class, the elderly, veterans, etc. Right? Everybody, the actual all of America, right? And Biden, oh sorry, can't read this. This exit poll finding show people, it shows that mainstream media is not reporting properly and misinforming people, and MSNBC, CNN, Fox, CBS, ABC, Disney, et cetera, Bloomberg, BBC, Vox, New York Times, Washington Post, and so many more are really letting you down. You really have to dig for good information. Check out Democracy Now! To get some information. They do a report every day, and they break up videos into smaller pieces. Check out Redacted Tonight. To get some information. Check out Lee Camp and all his different videos on how the exit polls make no sense and they're rigging this election blatantly, and the fact that internationally that we don't have, because the U.S. has so much power in the United Nations and it's one of the 9 voting countries to pass serious laws in the I believe in the General Assembly. Security Councils. Excuse me. Because we have so much power at the World Bank and so much power just generally with international agreements, we actually hinder the people here and people around the world, and to a few, the very few's financial benefit, those in power in government and corporations, and it's like a cyclical cycle of revolving doors where lobbyists become politicians become lobbyists, like how Boehner was super against marijuana until he left office as the Speaker of the House and then retired and then started working for a marijuana company advocating for it. These people are spineless. Joe Biden's spineless. Donald Trump's spineless. These people are opportunists and they're sociopaths, and Bernie Sanders is our only answer to address this crisis. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It's honest. Just because I support Sanders, I'll hold his feet to the fire. I think he needs to be more aggressive on Joe Biden. There's national polls showing Bernie Sanders winning. Went up 5% more popularity, and Joe Biden went down 5 since the March 15th debate with the heads up against Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Thank God these primaries are exposed, because Arizona, Florida, and Illinois should be invalidated elections at the least, if not more. And we should hold new primaries. Bernie Sanders is doing great things. He's doing fireside chats weekly, like in the style of Franklin Delano Roosevelt or FDR. Before the TV, we had TV or internet, he would do, fireside chats on the radio and speak to the public once a week. You should check it out, especially with coronavirus. You got a bunch of people doing stuff, and Bernie Sanders has a massive infrastructure of volunteers. He has the most campaign contributions for a U.S. president in history, the most money, and the most people contributing. And it's working class people, teachers, Amazon workers, Walmart workers, general working class. And it goes beyond that. But those are some of his biggest supporters. It's us. It's me. It's you. So get out there and volunteer for Bernie Sanders. Make some calls from home. Send some text messages. Check it out. I'm getting more involved with the campaign. In fact, I got to finish an email. I want to try to work for the campaign. Listen, people, this is serious. This coronavirus is showing us all the systemic failures that Bernie Sanders has a clean record of fighting for and accomplishing for 40 years. Don't listen to the mainstream media narrative. Bernie Sanders was known as the Amendment King. He got a ton of bills passed. He's worked with Republicans. He's worked with Democrats, those he didn't agree with. He worked with John McCain and did a massive overhaul of the Veterans Administration. He said he wanted more. He criticized that it wasn't enough, but he still did compromise and helped pass veterans, reform the veterans, the VA, Veterans Affairs, for their health care and their psychology and all that stuff, all kinds of health, mental, physical, prescriptions. And Bernie would fight for that continually. And he's the only honest candidate in this race, and he's the only one who's not taking money from corporations, and he's the only one without a super PAC. Joe Biden has lied consistently about his own record and Bernie Sanders' record. It's time for Bernie Sanders maybe to stop calling him his friend all the time and start going more on the attack. Do research. Look at independent media. Look at The Intercept. Look to the Rational National, Secular Talk with Kyle Kulinski, MSCS, I believe, with Nico House, definitely Nico House. Check out TBTV. Check out Kim Iverson. Thanks for subscribing, Kim Iverson. I love your stuff. Check out all of these people. And you know what? Get involved in the media revolution. Let's have some independent, honest analysis of what's really going on and what's at stake with the climate crisis, the coronavirus and COVID-19 outbreak, and how it was bundled by the Trump administration, how we need a competent person. Check out my one of my last videos, I believe my last video on YouTube, and it's it's all about how Bernie Sanders says we need to respond. We need to start making things here. And Trump is actually outflanking Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the leaders of the DNC and the elites in the DNC party. And he's outflanking them on the left with policy. And he's borrowing from Bernie Sanders. But we need $2,000 to every single American citizen. And we might even consider undocumented immigrants because they contribute to our economy. And they're here, whether we like it or not. And they put us at risk. But they're already here. So they need health insurance for now, at least, through this crisis. And we need a Medicare for All system implemented immediately. We need to do all kinds of things. Look to Bernie Sanders. He's been doing all kinds of updates and speeches, and he's dressed up his presidential looking thing, and he's the best to beat Trump by far. So if you want to beat Trump, and please believe me, even if you're a Trumper, I'm going to cover Donald Trump's speech from earlier and then do some analysis on it and release that tomorrow. And I'm also going to cover at 6:30, if I can find the video, the Poor People's Campaign put out a list of demands, and there's a great petition that you should sign and share for the Poor People's Campaign. Check it out. Thanks for joining me. Go to Go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics. Become a patron, become a member. I have different tiers. The first is just $1. You get more perks and more early access and more live chats with $2.70. Then there's one for, I believe, I don't even remember, $4 or $5 or $6. And there's one for like 10, and there's one for, whatever, 17, or I forget. And there's another one for 27. I got all kinds of tiers with all kinds of perks. By the time you get to 27, the stuff I'm offering you is like nobody else does. Please share the video, comment, make sure to subscribe to my Punk Rock Politics YouTube channel. Follow me on social media. Punk Rock Politics 1 on Facebook. I have a page, and also on Instagram. I have Occupy Hazlitt NJ at Occupy Hazlitt NJ, a Twitter account. I also have at NOFX52121. That's another Twitter account I have. I'm also on Facebook as John Smith and Hazlitt. Went to Pace University, where I worked for the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign and volunteered recently. Don't know if I added that yet. A little bit, only a little bit. Gotta get more involved. I've had everything. So people stay safe. Social distancing is a serious problem, and people aren't doing it. Stay 6 feet away from people in stores as much as you possibly can. Be safe. We need to start making masks in America, so we all have masks with decent filters on them. We need hand sanitizer. We should not be getting our supplies from other countries who then take concessions from us that are like anti-humanitarian and bad for the environment, and just because we don't produce things here anymore. We need to bring back factories. We need to stop outsourcing and make it illegal. We need to stop making investments come back and forth from other countries and outside of our borders. That's just basic free market capitalism. We don't even have that. So we have a globalized economy, and globalization is destroying the planet, and it's destroying our economic system, our way of life, our happiness, and this is a threat to democracy. We need to stand up to that, and we need to hold the DNC accountable for trying to steal this, and we need to put in place that the RNC and the DNC cannot not allow the person with the most votes at the convention to become the nominee. Actually the RNC was trying to stop Trump, but they're better and more fair than the DNC. How ironic is that? Don't get me wrong. Both of them do voter suppression, but they both target the same people: poor, working class, Asian. Even though sometimes in certain areas they're more conservative, but they can be progressive. Latinx, African American, Black, whatever you want to call it, just all different demographics, poor white people, everybody. So we need to stand together in these times, and we need to stand together in the future, and we need to endorse Bernie Sanders and the Poor People's Campaign plans, and we need to look at them, and we need to put these things into place, and we need to put money in every single person's hand in this country. We need to make sure they have health care and keep us all safe and eradicate the coronavirus. Thanks again for joining Punk Rock Politics. Cheers, salud, and slancha.